Low network connection.
Hi, my name's Haiti, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. And welcome to Wacky Wednesday.
My name is Felice, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery as well. And this is our Wacky Wednesday Why Wait for Recovery meeting.
And we get together every single week to discuss recovery, overeating, compulsive overeating, emotional eating, binging, purging, addiction. I mean, I'm the drug addict, food addict. I medicate myself with food or drugs or cigarettes or anything I can find to change how I feel.
And I'm a drug addict, alcoholic, anorexic, and I'm really glad that everybody's here tonight. So, tonight we are going to talk about, first we're going to talk about getting our connection back online. So
Yeah,
if we could just go live, yeah, then
So
that'll be okay.
we're going to talk about creating our own chaos.
Yes, we are, because we do that. You just did that a second ago.
I did actually. Well, I actually did it this week in a really profound way. So I think there's certain lessons that we get in trying to do too many things at once and kind of be disconnected. So what I did in my brilliance is I sent money to my son via PayPal, via text message, and I put in the wrong number. The wrong telephone number. So I sent it to a person.
Did you send it to me?
No, I sent $100 to a person I don't know who then took the money, okay, and I created this in my world and I can't get it back because it was done by a PayPal and it was done by a text message. So the first thing I did is I burst into tears and I then called my sponsor and I go, I can't believe I'm so stupid that I actually did this, okay, and I created this. And then I started, and she said to me, write about it and journal about it and just sit down and get a grip. She said, you're very, very hard on yourself. So I sat down and I started writing and I came to realize a couple of things. One is I have been obsessing about my finances and not having enough money coming in and not being financially stable and all this other kind of stuff. Work's not picking up. And then I also realized something else is that I've lost my sense of humor. So going through recovery and doing all this step work and all this stuff, I've become so serious and really taking myself exceptionally seriously. And I think this was part of me getting back a sense of humor and being able to laugh at myself because it really is a stupid thing to do, but it happened.
Right, so how about if we make it not stupid and we just make it a mistake? Because
Was
I
an
know that I make
expensive mistake.
mistakes and I know that I'm not stupid. I know that I feel stupid or I allow myself to feel stupid for my mistakes, right? And then we check ourselves. So they're just mistakes. So if I made a mistake, would you call me up and say, Felice, I can't believe how stupid you are?
No,
Right, no, it's my face.
not to your face.
No,
exactly.
no, you would probably tell me, you know what, you made a mistake, giggle about it, right? Thank God you had the $100 to get rid of, right? And so when we talk about self-talk, you guys, the way that I talk to me is as important as the way that I talk to you. So Susan, shout out to Best Mom Ever. So I have to tell the story real quick.
Sure.
Once I was sitting at my computer and I did something wrong and Susan was sitting at her computer and I said something very nasty about myself. I said, you know, I can't believe you're so effing stupid. And my stepmom turned around and said, don't you ever say that about my daughter. And that was a really good lesson for me to learn because whatever I say to me, my brain hears. So if I told you I can't believe you're so effing stupid, you would hear that and probably take offense to that and feel bad.
Right.
So when I say it to myself, I still hear it. It's still my own self-talk. It's like me saying that it's okay for Allison to talk with me like that, which wouldn't be because that would be a boundary of mine.
So it's the same thing as what we were saying earlier, that I don't have to be with another person to be in a bad relationship.
Right, right. And that was really funny. And that's an awesome thing to say. We have to write about that later. But yeah, so you guys, if we could learn to treat ourselves with the same caring, you talk about, right, being caring and compassionate. So if you could learn to treat you with the same care and compassion that you treat me, you'd be a lot happier.
Absolutely. And I also was able to see something, and it's thanks to my program as well, thanks to being in recovery, because normally my go-to behaviors would be I'd be overwhelmed, I'd be anxious, I'd be fearful, I'd be annoyed and really pissed off and start shouting at the kids and really get aggravated and just make other people feel uncomfortable. And I wouldn't have been open to my youngest coming up to me to give me a hug and tell me how sorry he was, and he gave me $50. It was like the sweetest thing. But I wouldn't have been able to have experienced that because normally that's not my go-to kind of behaviors in the past.
Yeah. So when we talk about creating our own chaos, so that was a really good example, by the way, of the things that we do to ourselves. We talk about acceptance, you guys, and how acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. And it was done.
Right.
End of discussion. It was done.
Right.
So no matter how bad you felt about it, if so, and we talk about perspective. So this happened. You just lost $100. Let's say you just flushed it in the toilet, basically. Okay. So you flushed the $100 down the toilet. You can be upset about the fact that you dropped $100 down the toilet and stay upset for 3 days. Or you can say, ruh-roh, that was a really silly thing to do. I'm going to be more careful next time. And like you said, call somebody and giggle about it. You wouldn't believe what I did, blah, blah, blah. The same exact thing happened. You just had a different perspective.
And also there was another option is I could have picked up. I really could have at that stage picked up and medicated with myself with food. And the one thing that I'm really starting to realize is no matter how bad things are, they're not as bad as if I'm using.
Yeah, of course.
You
Of
know?
course.
So if I step over that threshold and start going down that rabbit hole and start punishing myself even further for crazy, silly things, and I can laugh at it as a silly thing because it really
It was
I mean,
silly, right? It
not
wasn't
many
stupid.
people can do this and say, I just donated something to someone I've never met and don't
And
know.
can you
Okay.
imagine if that person really needed it?
Well, that was what I keep telling myself.
Right.
Okay, I mean, the other option is, bitch, why doesn't she give it back? I mean, I get all those things going through my head as well. But I've kind of resigned myself to whatever it is, it's
It
gone.
is, and it's done,
Right.
right? And so once you have acceptance and say, okay, that happened, and detach from any negative emotions that you have, now it's just a funny story that you're going to tell people, right?
Exactly. So I just want to quickly jump in as well and just mention a couple of things. So we have people joining us in different ways. We live stream on Facebook, on YouTube. We have people joining us in the rooms on Zoom so we can hear their voices and see their beautiful faces. We have people sitting with us in the rooms. And anytime you feel compelled to jump into the conversation, please just jump in, and we love hearing your voice. Because at the end of the day, recovery is really talking about the crazy thoughts that we have, the silly things that we do, and the secrets that we hold inside us. And that's the stuff that makes us sick.
Right, so that somebody has some insight, somebody who has a little bit more insight than I do, right? If I'm having a challenge, I need to speak with someone who's got a little bit more insight at the moment than I do, can help me to change my perspective. You guys, what keeps us sick and suffering is our perspective, right? So when we talk about gratitude, looking at what's great about whatever's going on, and changing the way that we look at things so that we don't have to stay sick and miserable and unhappy.
Exactly. And I also, when I was in active addiction, I had a checklist of reasons why I could pick up and justify why I could use and why I could punish myself or hurt myself or do the things that I did with food, because food for me is just, it was my drug of choice at that stage. You know, my drug changes depending on what's going on. So if my recovery is not strong, or I'm not working a program, or I'm not in community and doing those things that are necessary for me to be healthy, then it's very easy for me to turn around and start picking up.
Yeah, and for me, actually, once I'm in active addiction, I never need that excuse. Once I'm in active addiction, I'm just in active addiction, and that's just the way that it is. I don't even look for an excuse anymore. It is what it is, and I need to use because I need to use. And that's where it takes me. Anytime I use it, takes me to that exact place.
And the sad thing is that many addicts don't make it into the rooms. You know, many addicts don't find recovery, and many addicts don't get to live that healthy, happy life because addiction kills. You know, the person next to you might not be here when you look around next week. I mean, as I'm sitting in the rooms and seeing more and more people, sometimes people don't come back because they either have gone out or they've died because as a result of complications from addiction.
Yeah, and you know, I'm smiling, which just isn't an apropos time to smile, but the reason why I'm smiling is because when you say some of us don't make it back to the rooms, everybody thinks that we're talking about drug addicts and alcoholics, right? Because, yeah, you know, Joey OD'd on heroin and he's not coming back. And actually with our weight, with overeating or binging or purging or anorexia, it's a lot more insidious. And it happens, people see it happening more slowly, right? Because we are showing up, no matter how we're showing up, right? We're not crashing our cars. And it's funny, you know, I went through some stuff, right? I ended a relationship. My dad died, and I ended a relationship kind of in a couple of weeks, 7-year relationship. And I lost a lot of weight. And every one of my patients the last couple of weeks has said nothing to me except for, oh my God, you look so great. Like my BMI is 17.
Well,
Oh my God.
well, can I tell you
great.
something?
Like,
I walked into the rooms because I wanted to lose weight. I thought that if I started working, the first thing I ever walked into was an OA meeting. And I walked in not because I thought I was an addict. I thought I'd get the magic formula to be able to look great, lose weight, and get that perfect diet to be able to get all the weight off and just never have to deal with this again.
and you had surgery and you
Right.
did get all the weight
I
off.
did get all the
And
weight
you
off.
looked great. And did you feel any better?
No. In fact, I felt worse because, I built up all these fantasies of what it would look like when I was a certain weight, and all of a sudden reached a
Yeah.
certain weight. And you know what? I didn't feel any different on the inside other than sad, lonely, scared, anxious, all those same emotions that I was picking up and eating from before, except I was frustrated because I couldn't pick up and eat and I had to watch other people doing it. And then I chose to make healthier choices of what I put into my body.
Right. And in the beginning you did it because of necessity. It's kind of like living in a treatment center for 6 months. I couldn't use when I was in the treatment center. But then we get some recovery and we learn why it is that we want to live a better life and that we want to be happier and that there is some life out there to live and to enjoy, as opposed to just being the sick, miserable people that we are when we're in active addiction. And you guys, and I like that you say that, and I always mention this, but in AA, they say, what happens when an alcoholic horse thief stops drinking? He's still a horse thief. So it's the horse thief part of us that we're gonna learn to change.
It's that lying. It's that continual lying. I can't believe that I've been such a fabulous liar.
Right? You get real good at it, right?
Really good. I mean, I can look people in the face and lie to them without even blinking with the straightest face. But if I had to try to tell them the truth is when I start shaking and getting nervous and really being scared of talking about how I really feel.
And you still go through that.
I absolutely do. And I face a challenge every single day with my kids, with my husband, with my friends. And it's something, I think it's a muscle. I think it's developing a recovery muscle that is a speaking muscle, because it was so much easier. I'm one of those people that don't say what I mean and really mean everything I don't say. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And I'm learning how to shift that, because being in recovery and staying clean and living this lifestyle means I have to make that shift.
Right. And you guys, when we learn to let go of the ego, and when I learn that how I look to you isn't as important as how I feel about myself, then it's okay to be honest. I know that you guys call me abrasive because I'm real honest with how I feel. It's the only way that I know how to be. But it's okay with me because I say what I feel whenever I feel it, right? I do that, and it works a whole lot better for me than having to think about what I'm saying. I do always come from a place in my heart. I love all you guys, but to have to think about what you're saying and how it's going to be received and what she's going to think and who's going to say what about what I said, so much work, and that's also creating a whole lot of chaos.
And also there comes that stage where we have to really be honest to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
At some stage we've got to put the stuff down. No one's going to follow us around and start slapping things out of our hands saying, you can't pick this up and you can't eat this and you have to eat this, because that's what's leading back into the insanity and the chaos, because instinctively we know what the things are that are healthy for us.
Yeah, and so when we learn to put down the food or the alcohol or cigarettes or whatever it is, we do learn to do that, right, kind of more quickly. And then to put down the guilt, the lying, the shame, and the worrying about what you think of me, those are the things that actually are the most difficult things. And those are the things that we have to do so that we can stay clean. Remember, you guys, staying clean doesn't keep us in recovery. Staying in recovery keeps us clean. Very, very important to differentiate and to understand that. Just because I'm not using doesn't mean I'm going to stay in recovery. But if I stay in recovery, I won't have that reason to pick up, or I'll have better tools that I could use so that I don't have to pick up.
And that comes back to developing a toolbox. Things that when we're strong and we're great and things are looking good and life's happening and it's fantastic, we don't need those tools. It's the times when things are challenging and we're facing sickness, death, and financial issues and relationship issues and whatever other stuff that happens when life throws things at us. It's having tools to be able to go back to and know that we're in community and we've established a fantastic foundation and a base that helps us stay in recovery because we got something to fall back on and resources.
Yeah, and also to understand, because how I relapsed was my life was great and everything was wonderful and I was making crazy great money and I was in relationships and the kids were wonderful and everything was so great, and I was up here and we were going to open up a new business and everything was great, and I didn't use one of those tools. I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't have sponsees. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped reading recovery-based stuff, right? And I did all that stuff because I was great and because I had this thing, right? It wasn't going to happen to me anymore. I had this thing. Very, very, very dangerous place to be.
You got the gold star.
I graduated.
Right.
So, yeah, so when you talk about having those tools in your box to use when you're in trouble, which is 1,000% right, we still have to be doing the things that we have to be doing to keep ourselves in recovery, right? It's like, having a thyroid problem, right, Jess? And you have to take your Synthroid every day, right? It's like so that you stay healthy. You don't have to think about it, but you have to do what you have to do to make sure that you keep yourself healthy, correct? And so with the stuff that we do in recovery, with our reading, with your journaling, with us going to meetings, with us have sponsors, those are the things that, especially when we think we have it, and or especially again when we think that we don't need it, super, super important that we're using those tools anyway, right, Jess? If you're hypothyroid and you don't take your meds, you feel like crap, you need to take your meds, but you still need to remember every day that you feel well, that you still have to take your meds, right?
Right. Yep.
So what's interesting is recovery. As an addict, one of the things that I am is, I'm spiritually broken. I think that's honestly what lies at the base of my addiction. And there was nothing physical that I could take to solve that addiction. There was nothing. There was no pill. There was no food. There was no substance. There was nothing that I could take to make it better. This is a spiritual program. It's something that takes being connected to other addicts, being able to talk, being able to practice all the things that you're talking about that helps us recover. This is the medicine that I had to take for me to stay in recovery and be healthy.
Correct.
People who are not addicts do not understand this. People who can eat normally and are normal and don't have these compulsive behaviors that I do and these compulsive obsessive thoughts that I can get, don't actually understand what this looks like. But staying in recovery also is something I've got to remember is this body and this brain follows me around and it goes with me to the meetings and it hears all the lessons. And when I'm really weak and I'm not working my program is when it starts giving me these suggestions, because my addiction talks in my voice. We'll go, what difference does one bite make? Just one taste. You haven't had this for months. Pick it up. It doesn't matter. What's one thing? And all of a sudden it starts taking me down that rabbit hole because I know what it looks like if I pick up, because I've been in that place so many times of feeling full of shame, full of guilt, just living in pain and just being in that dark, dark place when I'm using. So I really know what the end result is. And if I keep going through that end result, it ends up with me not only dying, but suffering to the point where I really do, because I've been there and done that and walked around with the colostomy bag and all the other stuff. So really dealing with addiction and dealing with recovery starts with what we're doing now, which is being in community and getting together.
Yeah, and being of service to each other, you guys. So speaking of being of service.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to go around the room real quick.
Sure.
Just a quick shout out. You sleeping, baby?
No.
Okay, how are you?
Good.
Good. Anything up? No? How are you doing with binging?
Good. I think too cold to look at my phone, but I think it's day 36.
Oh, very good.
Awesome.
Good for you. That's awesome. So thanks for sharing that with us, because you don't share that stuff too much. So very good. Good job, you.
Thank you.
Awesome. You having any feelings about it?
No. I don't know, this is dumb, but it works for me. It's a calendar that shows every day that I've done it, and I don't want to miss a day to check it off.
So that's not dumb, right? It's one of the tools that you have in your toolbox. It doesn't matter sometimes why we're doing what we're doing, as long as we're doing something that's okay for us, right? And it isn't dumb. And that might be something that you want to share. So you have a calendar and you mark off the days every day on your calendar that you're clean. So do I. I have a clean time tracker, right? And every Monday night at the meeting, we all have to raise our hands and say how much clean time we have. That's in every whatever A group, everybody does that. We mark our clean time, and there's a reason for that. It's a big achievement, and I'm gonna tell you, I I went from 7 years to having 1 day, and that's a whole lot of calendar to erase. And that's one of the things that I get to remember, you know, if I would even think about picking up, was that not that what I've learned went away, but knowing that there are a whole bunch of things that I needed to start over again with, of course, with myself spiritually, and getting to go through all that shame and guilt and all that stuff all over again really wasn't that fun. So good for you that you're keeping your tracker.
And I just think it's awesome because when I'm in that obsession, getting through 1 day of not obsessing about food or obsessing about the drugs, for me, I never thought that was possible. You know, there wasn't a time when I thought that I actually could be clean for the time that I managed to stay clean, because I was so obsessed with it. So I think being able to track, if you can't track the day, track the minute. If you can't track the, you know, if you can track the minute, track the hour. But it gives us a gauge that if we can get through just today, we've already achieved something.
Right, and and in recovery, that is what we get through, or what we are happy to live through, and that's today. And so, yeah, whatever we're gonna think about tomorrow, we don't really need to, because it ain't tomorrow yet.
So I just want to invite anyone who wants to jump in the conversation, just jump in. You're able to talk as the spirit moves you, and just say whatever goes through your mind, or ask questions as well.
Allie, how are you?
I'm okay.
You said, are you okay?
Well, I could be better.
By the way, it's really good to see you today.
Great to see you
Happy
too.
to see you. I haven't seen you in a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on?
There's a lot of stuff going on, but today I'm learning to work through my feelings and not under them or hide them or use something else to comfort myself so that I can hide from it.
So you cannot feel.
Right.
Right. So you're learning to feel instead of not feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how does that feel?
Well, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. It does. I
really
mean,
does.
it does. Especially, and we're all there, you guys, especially in the beginning, when what happens is we say, okay, I'm gonna let myself feel like this. I'm gonna let my feels, you know, I'm gonna understand, and I'm gonna feel the sadness today. And especially in the beginning, it's like, okay, now I'm sad. Now what do I do? Because now I have this feeling. I have feelings about my feelings, and I can't pick up. Or I choose not to pick up, because I can't always pick up. So, and I choose not to pick up, so now what do I do? So what did you do?
Well, I tried to use the tools that I've been learning.
You saw your sponsor today?
I saw my sponsor today. I saw
Okay.
my therapist today.
Okay, so those are
I-
really, really, really big, important things that you did, right? Because you're working on your recovery.
Mhm.
What else did you do?
I read, I journaled, I talked to other people.
And
So
you
I just try to do that every day so that, I mean, it still fucking sucks. Like, it's not like I don't feel better. Well, I feel
know.
better but I don't feel better completely yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes all kinds of sense. And you don't feel better yet, might take a while, and you showed up at a meeting and you shared about it. So you guys, every time we share about something that we're hiding, actually does make it a little bit better, and also leaves you open to reach out to anybody, right? Because you don't need to feel ashamed about it. And the one great thing I can tell you is that day that I don't pick up, that I'm feeling something and I don't pick up, I get to feel proud of myself, like really, really better about myself, as opposed to wanting to kill myself because I am so shameful because I just picked up again. So that part's the really, really, really good part. That's the big silver lining. When we're feeling something, but we don't have to add, excuse me, that extra shame to what we're already feeling, right? You feel like crap, you use, now you feel like crap, and you feel like crap. So you only feel like 50% of the crap when you don't pick up, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
So one of the things that I started learning as well is just, I couldn't name the emotions. It took me a long time because I only had good and bad. There were like two things. I didn't know how to name them. I was numb for so long. And when we did the workshop, there was those list of challenges. I'm learning to go back and kind of look at that because it also helps me name things. So you've got that. It's a great resource. Also go back and look at the work that you did.
And that was kind of a big deal when we did that in that workshop, right? When we learned, when we took a look at what our imperfections were and how they affected our life and how it is that we wanted to change so that we could feel better. Yeah, so that was some pretty scary stuff we did there, you guys.
It's okay. I was just gonna add that something I noticed with Allison too is that she reaches out to me now and says what's wrong. And today she called me twice, I think. And usually you would never do that because you think you're bothering me.
That's true.
And so that's really good for her to see that. If I
And
feel
she reaches out to me too.
And that,
She's reached out to me too. I'm proud of you, Allison.
yeah, and that's really great. Yeah, it's really, really great. And what happens too, you know that when you do reach out, people feel closer to you, right? They feel, everybody feels more a part of, as far as being a part of the community goes. And it kind of helps us to get together and to understand that we all go through what we're going through and that we're not alone, right? In every one of those A meetings, it says on the wall, you're not alone. It's a really big deal because if I could have gotten clean, stayed clean, and gotten happy on my own, trust you me, I would have done it. Especially when I relapsed. If I didn't have to walk back into those rooms and say, you know, my name is Felice, I'm an alcoholic, drug addict, anorexic, or whatever, and I have 3 days clean. If I could have gotten clean and stayed clean on my own, I would have. It just don't work that way. It just doesn't.
You know, interestingly enough, I had a realization this week. I always used to think that in NA there's a burning desire when I ask people, is anyone going through something where they feel like they either need to use or hurt somebody or hurt themselves? And I always used to think that reaching out to someone, I had to have this huge issue that was going on. And I've really come to realize that it doesn't matter what it is. Anything that I'm thinking that's putting me off sorts is worth picking up the call. And I didn't think that I deserved it or I was worthy of picking up the call. It wasn't that important to call someone until I realized something. I realized that I love getting phone calls from people. It makes me feel special when someone calls me and actually says, do you know, hi Haiti, do you know what, I just wanted to say hi, I'm having a bit of this thing's going through my mind and I've got a challenge, or this happened, no matter how serious or not serious it is, it makes me feel special. So it gives them the ability to be of service, and it gives me the ability of being of service by sharing, because it makes the other person feel special. So that's something I'm working on.
And so interestingly enough, so you said I don't feel worthy of saying, you know, out loud how I feel. And that goes back to our ego, you guys. So if I tell you that I'm having a problem today, you're going to look at me as being weak. And then you're going to look at me as being weak, and how you look at me is so much more important than how I feel. So now I'm worried about you looking at me as weak, which actually adds to the hard that I'm feeling, instead of saying I have a challenge and I need to speak with somebody about it. Having the challenge, recognizing it, and reaching out is strength, man. It ain't weakness. And so we have to remember that. Whether or not you see it as my weakness isn't my problem, right? It's how I feel about it. And I guarantee you there's nobody that I've ever called that said to me, wow, man, I can't believe how weak you are. You know, that nobody that I've ever reached out to had anything to say to me, at least, except for, well, thanks so much for reaching out. That's awesome. And you know what? Yesterday, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I got through it like this, right?
And how often have they gone, wow, that happened to me before?
Yeah, 2 minutes ago. Right,
Right, exactly.
right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca, how are you?
Alright,
Okay, anything up?
well, I'd like to share with you that, I lost my daughter recently. She committed suicide, she jumped off a building,
I'm really sorry. How long ago was that?
that was in April.
Shit. That sucks.
So I've been trying to, work through that,
Are you seeing a therapist?
yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah. And so I'm going to tell you that the death of a child, I don't know how we get over it. I know that it took me a really long time and a whole lot of using and a whole lot of therapy and a whole lot of inpatient treatment to begin to learn how to live as the mother of a dead child. There's never anything that anyone's going to be able to say or do that's going to be that magic thing that's going to allow you to wake up one day and say, hey, okay, that happened and I feel better. You know, it's not going to be an event that happened. That grieving is always going to be a really big process. And make sure that you stay connected with a therapist, because I was in a whole lot of trouble, And the only thing that I can tell you is that although a lot of people actually don't spiritually survive the loss of a child, I'm going to tell you that no matter how spiritually sick you are, that it is possible to get well, because I got well. So it took a long time, but I needed help so much long before I got that help. And my heart out to you, man. Like, I'm really, really, really sorry about that, and I'm sorry that you're going through that. And there's really nothing that anybody could say to you right now except that's so horrible, and we're really sorry.
What kind of tools did you use to get over that?
So we'll talk about that after. I was
Okay.
really, really sick, and it's a really big story. So I'll talk with you privately about that after.
Okay.
But thank you so much for sharing that, though, and all of us are really, really sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Miss Molly, what's going on, girl?
Okay.
Molly's always fine. So we know fine means effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
I said good.
I know. Well, you said good, and I heard fine, and I'm looking at your face.
I'm just tired.
Okay.
Had a long day.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to put it out there that if there's anything that you want to share, that we'd love to hear from you. And I'm really glad that you're here tonight. So thank you for coming.
Can I just quickly
Yes.
address something that's popped up? Christine. So Christine had bariatric surgery in 1980. Oh, she lost her, she on August the 1st, last year. So she lost 80 pounds, and she's still feeling like she's got those starving feelings like before. So Christine, I was always empty on the inside. I could never get enough food in. I was never ever full. I could never fill that hole until I actually realized that I could never fill that hole until I started stepping into recovery, because it was really about what I was feeling and not what I was eating. So until we really start dealing with the things that got us there in the first place, we're not going to get better, and we're never going to feel better, and we're always going to keep trying to fill that hole with something else.
Right, so you'll lose weight because you're going to lose weight. It's not about the weight loss. It's about getting better spiritually. It's about learning to look at things differently, having a different perspective, understanding what we are and we aren't in control of, and looking for other things to fill us up, you guys. You know, looking to help somebody out today, maybe. That'll help to fill me up. I'm looking to do something productive. Looking to look at what I'm grateful for and coming from a place of abundance as opposed to coming from a place of lack. Those are all some of the little tiny things that we learn to do in recovery. I'm going to challenge you right now to go up on what's eating you, and every single night, we started, you said that we should do a 90-day challenge for gratitude, right? And how long
Yes.
ago was that?
Probably about a year ago.
Before you went to, yeah. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to do it. And I've been doing it ever since. And that was like a year ago. So thank you for that, because I do that every day. So do that little tiny bit of a first step. Go up online every night, write the 3 things that you're grateful for and your strength for the day, and start looking at things a teeny tiny bit differently, and keep coming back and keep reaching out. Thank you so much for reaching out to us.
Sure. Let's carry on.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing well with myself. I'm doing what I have to do to stay clean and
You're still not binging?
no,
Not purging?
nothing.
How many days?
It's been maybe 47, 48.
Awesome!
That's really
That's
great.
awesome.
And you seem, and each time we see you, you seem a little bit more calm.
Yeah, I always feel nervous sharing. My heart starts racing. But there are some things that kind of popped up this week. Nothing like that took, so much of
Told?
a toll on me.
Mm-hmm.
But some things that came up, just kind of feeling sad. Someone I knew from middle school and high school. Not that I was like so close with them recently,
Mhm.
but they were murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that a lot of us have been sad about.
Yeah, and it's also scary, right? So if we're going to actually touch base with the first emotion, somebody that you know gets murdered, makes us scared, right?
Yeah, it's,
Aside the fact that it makes us so sad, but also makes us scared.
and how it happened was very scary.
Yeah, that's scary stuff, and the world happens out there. It does. Fortunately and unfortunately, right? The world is going to happen. Are you talking with anybody about it?
I mean, Cliff and I talked amongst each other.
Okay.
We've been feeling kind of emotional about it too.
Okay.
But
you know, there's only so much you could do. Life is life, and you know, most of us want to be more connected. Now, people I went to school with, we want to get more connected because we know life is really short. But in speaking of that, it's not directly related, but they are going to be doing some kind of candle lighting on Sunday. And the way that my mind is set up, you know, the way that I set my mind up is that my first thought is, okay, I would like to go to the candle lighting, but I'm too ashamed of how I look right now to show up.
So let's do this. Let's do, instead of this is the way that I set up, let's say this was my behavior before and I'm learning to change that behavior. So can you say that to me?
This was my behavior
Before.
and I'm learning to change it.
And you're learning to change that, right? And so you're talking about your ego, right? And you're worried about how I'm going to see you. So you're so worried about how I'm going to see you that it's going to let you take away this beautiful gift, right, of showing up and paying respects to your friends and to her family and whatever. So I'm going to challenge you to think about which is more important. If I think you're skinny or fat, or if somebody died and you want to pay their respects, your respects.
Of course, that.
Right, so when we think about it logically, listen, there's something going on. You guys, we kind of think that every way that we are and what we think and how we feel and how we look is so important. People are going there to grieve and to be a part of a community,
I feel
right?
bad for
And to help. Don't feel bad about feeling. Just feel. Just feel. How many people in the room have ever felt like that?
Oh my God.
So yeah, everybody. Is anybody's hand down? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've all felt like that. Okay, so how you're feeling is how everybody else felt at one time or another or feels right now. So, okay, so that part's done, right? So the thing is, you know, if you follow your heart, right, you follow your gut, which says this is what I want to do because it's a nice thing for me to do and it allows me to be of service. Anybody who looks at you and has anything to say, fuck them if they can't take a joke. That's first of all, right? No, and that's none of your business. My opinion of you is none of your business. Your opinion of you is what matters, right? Don't look at yourself on the outside or decide that how I see you is more important than who you are. Okay? I want you to think about that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that because every single person right now on the Facebooks, we usually get like 6,000 people that watch this. Every single person has just said, shit, I felt like that last week. Or, oh my God, you know, I couldn't put my whatever on it and I stayed home from da-da-da because of how I felt about how I looked. I can promise you 99% of the community definitely related to what you just said. So thank you for sharing that because you sharing that and having a discussion maybe took somebody else out of their own prison for a minute. So thank you for sharing that. That was super important. Thank you. Jess? Angeli, you let me know when you're ready, okay? Jess?
Hi.
Yo, baby, what's up?
Well, I had a lot to say. I kept wanting to say something, and I thought I'll just wait until it's my turn. But about emotions and feelings, like one kid that I've been working with this week at work keeps saying he feels numb. Like, I feel numb, but we don't know how to feel until we start, like, I don't know, allowing ourselves to do it. Just like with the medication example you gave, like, a lot of kids come back into the hospital because they stopped taking their medicine because they were feeling good. Right. Well, you were feeling good because you were taking your antidepressant, you know?
Right.
So that was my comment on the mood and feelings. But I kind of created my own chaos this week with some things at work. And yesterday, I think it was, I decided to take care of it, apologize to somebody that I was kind of a bitch to. And kind of owned it. And ever since then, I feel a lot better and not so anxious about going to work like I was. So that feels better.
So I'm going to put something out there to you. So we're going to check your motives. Did you apologize so the person wouldn't be angry with you? Or did you apologize because it was the right thing to do?
Because it was the right thing to do. Honestly, I thought of the recovery principles, to be honest.
Right. Right.
And I was doing it for myself because, you know, this person and I don't always see eye to eye anyways. But this was like the first time I actually like verbalized it, and she was aware because I was on edge. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't be like that. So
Right. And so
I think
this
I did
is
it for the right reason.
yeah, so this is about you doing your best to do your best. Right? And so when we say
Right.
we apologize to somebody else, not for them, but for us. It's because when we're using those spiritual principles, right, behind the steps beside honesty is integrity. Right? And so for us to
Right.
walk with integrity, you know, it's not okay for me to snap at somebody, not because they might get mad or they might not like me, but because that's not the way that I would choose to live. Right? Right?
Right.
Because when we're coming from a place
Yeah,
of love or compassion or kindness, the more openly kind and compassionate we are, the happier we are.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I apologized,
Go ahead.
what'd you say?
No, go ahead.
I said that to her. She was just like, she got teary eyed, to be honest. And she was like, can I give you a hug? I'm like, oh my gosh, like, sure. So it meant a lot to her, and I felt a whole lot better. So
Yes, so you were honest, which helped you to feel better.
Yeah.
You apologizing to someone, you have no idea what that person goes through every day in their
Right.
own life. You have no idea if they're unhappy or if something bad happened or whatever, right? And so you
Right.
opening up your heart and being compassionate and kind, that's one of the biggest gifts that we could ever give to anybody. Give to ourselves and to give to somebody else as well, as a gift. Not so that they'll turn around and like us, but because we want to give a
Right.
gift to somebody, right? And
Right.
I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you, how long do you have clean?
it'll be 4 months on the 24th.
Good for you. And I'm going to tell you that 3.5 months ago, the whole conversation wouldn't have gone differently. Because 3.5
Yeah.
months ago, you would have been so worried about how she was thinking of you, as opposed to what you were doing because of who you're doing your best to become. So good
Right.
job, you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good.
I got one last thing.
Sure.
I have one last thing to say on emotions or thoughts, feelings rather. Back years ago when I was in my first treatment program, I said something to one of the therapists about, I don't like to be hungry. And one of the patients was like, you don't like to be hungry, I don't like to be full. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I don't like to feel anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, isn't that ironic?
Yeah, and
So I've always remembered that. It's all about not wanting to feel stuff.
exactly. Right. Don't matter what it is that you don't want to feel. Yeah, very good.
Right.
Great share. Anybody have anything they want to say about
Thanks.
that? Okay. Okay, how are you, Dee? Thank you, Jess.
You're welcome, thanks.
I'm doing really well.
Okay.
I'm 50 days into my recovery.
Very good.
I'm feeling, in this time frame, just as fate would have it, every day, every week, something would come up that would be a huge trigger for me. I mean,
Okay.
all the biggest triggers in
Okay.
life seem to have happened in these 50 days.
Do you want to talk about one of them and how you felt?
Pardon me, can I talk about one of them?
Would you like to share about one of them and how you
Yeah.
felt?
One of them, which is a big one for me, is, I'm concerned about one of my sons, the health of one of my sons.
Mm-hmm.
He's had issues.
Okay.
So, we're going to hopefully resolve them, but it's been a very, very anxiety, and it goes back what you said, my fear of losing him,
Mm-hmm.
my fear, that's like this huge thing for me, so, I would have been, I had a lot of rough moments, but I let myself feel the feelings, and I did not feel the need to go to food.
Let me ask you a
to
question.
compensate.
Do you see a therapist?
I did. I did.
And you're not seeing one now because?
No, because I've sort of right now, I've been through therapy and I know what the basic issue
So,
is.
so you
with the
graduated
fear
from therapy?
of my children or whatever. Pardon me?
I said you graduated from therapy?
No, I didn't graduate from
Okay,
therapy, no.
correct, you
I just
didn't.
stopped.
Do you have a sponsor?
I have a sponsor, and I'm actually meeting with my sponsor next week, and we're gonna sit down for the first time to go over stuff.
Good.
She's gonna.
Good. And so we know that all of our thank you so much for sharing, by the way. We know that all of our negative feelings are fear-based. No matter what that we disguise them as, whether we're resentful or anxious or whatever they are, they're all fear-based. And so you're talking about something that you're absolutely not in control of. And when it's about our kids, it makes us crazy anyway. We're parents. And being able to look at that your solution right now is doing what you're doing, right? You're seeing doctors and you're talking about how you feel to other people. And the universe is going to turn the way that it does. And the only thing that you can do is your best. And that's going to be it. And that's a really hard nut to swallow because it is your child. But it's the situation is still warrants a whole lot of acceptance for what's happening and not trying to control the things that we can't control, meaning not going back to yesterday or last week or last month or last year and saying, well, if I only do this and if I did this and if I would have said this and if I would have taken him here and if I would have done that, because none of that serves you, right? We're just staying in your moment, doing your best to do your best and stepping into the solution as much as possible. That's the only way that we get through that, not as horrified as the horrifying part of it.
I agree, and we have stepped into the solution.
Good.
And what I do, like part of the 12 steps is I do believe in a power higher, a lot of powers greater than myself. And I actually go twice a week to a service in the morning and pray. It's this minion service at synagogue.
Okay.
And I pray for my children. I pray for my, that's all I can do.
Right.
Pray
So,
for my children, pray for my family.
I'm going to teach you that in recovery, the first thing that we pray for is acceptance. Because if we're going to talk about God's will is God's will. Some of us have kids that died. Some of us have kids that are sick. Some of us have kids that are healthy. Some of us, we have all of these things going on in the world. And life is going to show up and happen. When we pray for acceptance, right, to accept what's happening without the fear, when we pray for that, and when we talk about in the steps, we're going to talk about doing God's will for us and the power to carry that out. What's his will, right? And so I'm not sure if I pray for God to make my child well. I'm not really sure personally that the universe works like that. Maybe it does, because I have no idea what God's will is. But I do know that if I do my best to do my best and live with those spiritual principles behind the steps and learn to have acceptance, that my world and everything else around my world is going to run a whole lot better.
And
thank you for sharing.
And for me, God is also good orderly direction.
Correct.
So if I'm doing the next right thing and doing things, treating people the way that I want to be treated, I know things are sitting well. That's part of my spiritual health. I see a lot of questions about stress eating. So I know.
Yeah, please talk about that.
So one of the things with stress eating is the question that keeps coming up is, how do I stop stress eating? Don't pick up.
Stop.
You just don't pick up.
Stop.
There is no magic answer to this. I am not going to follow you around and slap it out of your hand. I can tell you now, okay?
Nor is this a pill, because if there was a pill,
We'd
then
both
that
be-
person,
right.
we'd all be taking
Right.
it, and the person who found that pill would have more money than God, right? Because
Right.
everybody would be doing it.
Right. So I
Right.
just also want to mention something else. So the last time that I had sweets and starches was the 17th of February 2016. Was the last time I picked up anything sweet or starch. So that obsession of mine in terms of the food and those cravings for those things, thank God, or whatever it is, has been lifted. Okay, but the thing is, life has happened. I've lost my mother in between. I've got a child who's got Asperger's. I've got another kid who's got a learning disability. I've got a father who's ill. Shit happens in between, and making myself sicker isn't going to make the situation any better. It's not going to help me show up in a way that's going to be compassionate, loving, and kind, because I become mean and nasty and really resentful when I'm using. So things happen, and things really sucky happens. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, we all have challenges, but picking up is just going to make it worse for me at the end of the day. And it starts with making that commitment to myself. I had to try something different. You know, if my thinking and the way that I was thinking, it took me 42 years to get into the rooms. If my thinking had made me sick and look for ways for me to hurt myself and ways to mistreat myself and abuse myself, something had to shift. And no matter what else is going on in the world, I can't control anything other than my perspective and my reaction. Those are the only two things that I'm learning that I've got any control over. So when it comes to stress eating, that becomes a word that I'm then able to justify doing things that are either going to hurt myself or hurt people around me if I start giving into naming something that gives it power over what I'm doing.
And I'm going to challenge everybody to stop using stress eating. I don't want to hear the stress eating anymore. Use the words using. I feel like using. Let's make it more in the drug and alcohol tradition of what everybody actually thinks is bad. Because stress eating sounds a little bit nicer. Oh, I'm going to stress eat. No, you're going to use, man. You're going to pick up. So let's talk about using and picking up so that we can have some respect for our own addiction so that we can get some respect for our own recovery.
If another person tells me that they have to eat to live,
kill me.
Exactly. The thing is, we have to do many things to live. We need to breathe is number one. Okay. The foods that we pick up, we have certain choices of what we choose to pick up with our hands and stick into our mouth. That is the one thing. If I'm picking up something that I'm then trying to change the way that I'm feeling, and it's then making me feel bad, and it's then making me pick up more of it, and it's then doing all these other things because I'm allergic to it or I've got some reaction to it, and I am an addict. Because if I wasn't an addict, I wouldn't have gone for bariatric surgery to start.
Well, and if you weren't an addict, we wouldn't be having the conversation. That's
Right.
first of all. And you guys, if you're deathly allergic to shrimp, you don't eat shrimp. Even though you have to eat, you don't have to eat shrimp. So you could eat chicken and vegetables. Oh, that's an idea. So yes, you do have to eat, but you don't have to eat the things that keep you sick and suffering and unhappy and fearful. Those you don't have to do. And everyone has to eat is the greatest excuse on the planet. And I feel very passionately angry about it. I don't know why. Maybe because I can't say, well, yes, I do have to do Percocet to live. Because you know what? I felt like I did have to do Percocet to live. I friggin' felt that I couldn't live without the Percocet, just like you can't live without the cookies.
Listen,
So-
I had to do part to live. I had to smoke. I couldn't get out of bed without using something. If it wasn't food, it was some kind of substance that changed the way that I had to get up to function. I couldn't get out of bed without using something.
Right. So binging, purging, overeating, emotional eating, starving ourselves, they're using. We're using. Yes.
Unmute yourself.
yourself.
I just wanted to say what I realized also was that, like what you said, you know, every day life happens. And every day, what I realized, which I didn't realize because I was too busy stuffing my face, was that every day things happen that upset you or aggravate you that are out of your control. And I didn't realize how much was out of my control because I was focusing on the food. And it's just every single day things happen.
So listen, every single day things happen. The more acceptance we have, the less angry we are. And so
Yes.
acceptance, right? Acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. The more acceptance we have, the more, the less angry we are, and the more happy, joyous, and free, and are able to be of service to others. So that's all about acceptance. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe when you're doing a gratitude list, your strength for the day could be acceptance, right? Right? Accepting the things I cannot change.
So we're
Yeah.
running
running
on our
out of time.
time. So we've got
And we'll accept
6
that.
minutes left, and I'm accepting that too.
Can we hear
So-
from Ange?
Yes, we haven't spoken to Ange.
Hi, Ange.
Hi.
How are you, Mama?
Good.
Anything you want to share?
No.
Okay, nothing going on that you're feeling great about, or you're feeling weird about, or
I mean, same stuff that I've been talking about the past few weeks. I think that recovery's going well. And I think I'm at a point where there's ups and downs, in the sense that I was talking to Allison about this today, actually, that I think I've gotten to a point where you kind of iron out the stuff that is the initial stuff that you thought was the reason why you had a problem, and you realize like that was nothing, that was just the beginning. And so I'm dealing with the real issues now, and I think that is it can be emotionally taxing, and I tend to want to sleep it away and not function, so that way I don't have to think about it.
And I'm going to interrupt you. And so when we talk about not feeling,
Right.
you know when Harry met Sally, and he says that's the great thing about depression, you catch up on your rest. And so the thing is that, yeah, you want to sleep so you don't have to go through what you're going through, right? So you don't have to feel. And I guarantee you that everybody else in this room and everybody else out there can raise their hand saying, did you ever want to sleep so that you didn't have to go through what you're going through? Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. Because I don't want anybody to think that that's like, oh my God, they did. We all do that, you guys. And
I think sometimes too, oh sorry.
no, go ahead.
I think sometimes too, since I have the longest recovery time in the room, aside from you, yeah, I didn't mean it like that.
I'm just goofing with you
And
anyway.
then with
Go
everyone
ahead.
else, it's an ego thing. It's like I'm not allowed to show I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do, but I feel like I'm not allowed to show those parts of me because I'm supposed to look good. I'm supposed to be what recovery is about.
And that's called your
Ego.
Ego.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing of it is that it's not as simple as that. Or simple's not even the right word. It's just not that. It has nothing to do with that. I'm a person going through life just like everybody else, and some days are going to be a hell of a lot harder than other days.
Correct.
So yeah.
Right. And you reaching out to somebody else allows you to be of service and allows them to be of service.
Right.
Right.
So we
Thank
got,
you.
thank you. We got 3 minutes left, and I'm sorry to
Why
cut
are you
the
sorry?
short.
Go ahead. She's
Okay.
awesome. She's not sorry. 'Cause we don't say we're sorry
We're meeting
in this
again.
room.
So, firstly, addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter what you're picking up, if it's cocaine, if it's drugs, if it's sex, alcohol, gambling, whatever it is that's changing how you're feeling. Addiction is addiction. It keeps coming up. We meet again Sunday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is about being in community. Recovery starts with being in community. We have a closed Facebook page, which is What's Eating You. We also post any meeting updates on Why Wait for Recovery page. We are going to be moving on to different platforms. We'll post updates. We do have a workshop starting in February. So the messages, please message us if you've got any questions. Also, we will answer as many messages as possible. But if you go into What's Eating You, there is always someone who's going to respond to something that you post.
Yeah.
People join us from all around the world. So honestly, just post whatever you're feeling. Nothing is silly, nothing is insignificant. It's all about feeling, and someone will respond to you, I promise you. Gratitude. So there are a couple of things. We post our gratitude list every single day, 3 things we're grateful for, because no matter how shitty the day is, or it seems, there's always something to be grateful for. And also our strength for the day. It helps shift the space that can be a really dark place that sits above our neck. So please start posting your gratitude. Also, if you've got any ideas, post it, or things that have worked for you, post it. If you've got any insights, post it. It's about learning and growing together.
Yeah, and also, you guys, if there's any topic that you want to speak about, we don't speak about dieting because we're not a diet group.
Right.
But spiritually, if there's anything that you're going through, anything that you need some help with, any fears that you're having, go ahead and post them. If you don't want to post them with your name, go ahead and shoot one of us in IM, and we'll post your question without your name. We'll just say, Mr. M says, or whatever. If you feel like you need to be anonymous at that point, that's okay too.
Right. And the best way to really get your questions answered is jump onto Zoom. So Zoom gives you a voice. Hop into the rooms. It doesn't cost you anything. We look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday, and I am so blessed and grateful.
And
for
Sunday.
you. And Sunday. Sorry, it's Wacky Wednesday. Listen,
You
things
said you're
go-
sorry twice, man.
I did. I'm really
Say,
sorry.
I'm
today.
awesome.
I'm awesome. So I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. My name's Heidi, and I'm an addict.
I am so blessed and so grateful for every one of you, you guys. Thank you for being a part of my recovery. Thank you for being of service to me, actually. This was Why Wait for Recovery's Wacky Wednesday Recovery Meeting. And peace out to everybody.
Peace out, everybody.
Recovery's awesome.
Yes, it is.
So we didn't get the beginning, but... Mwah.